You're Daniel, aren't you?
I don't deserve anyone's kindness.
You don't have to die tonight.
The young assistant never returned to the office. By the end of the day, her desk had already been cleared. Someone else was hired before the week was over. To Daniel, it was business. To everyone else, it was another reminder that working for him meant living in constant fear. No one laughed when he walked by. No one spoke unless he asked a question. No one dared to disagree with him. Even the senior executives measured every word before opening their mouths. Daniel enjoyed that feeling. He believed fear was the highest form of respect. As his father often said, the company had once been known as a family. Daniel had turned it into a prison. Later that afternoon, Daniel met a wealthy investor at one of the city's most exclusive restaurants. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. A pianist played softly in the background. Everything looked perfect. As the waitress carefully approached their table with fresh coffee, another customer accidentally bumped into her. The tray tilted. A few drops of hot coffee splashed onto Daniel's expensive jacket. The restaurant became silent. The young waitress immediately grabbed a napkin. "I'm so sorry, sir. It was an accident." Daniel slowly looked down at the tiny stain. Then he looked at her with cold eyes. "Do you even know how much this jacket costs?" She lowered her head. "No, sir. It's more money than you'll probably earn in 6 months." The waitress apologized again, fighting back tears. Instead of accepting her apology, Daniel stood up. "I'll make sure your manager hears about this."
I want her fired.
Within minutes,
I am
the restaurant
terribly
manager
sorry, sir.
rushed over.
Fire
He
her.
apologized repeatedly.
Fire her immediately.
Daniel demanded the waitress be fired immediately.
I want her fired.
The young woman begged for another chance. "My son is only 5 years old. I'm raising him alone. Please don't take away my job." Daniel didn't care. He walked out of the restaurant without looking back. As he entered his car, he smiled. He believed people learned best through punishment. He never wondered what would happen to that little boy if his mother lost her income. A few days later, Daniel visited one of the company's newest apartment developments. Construction workers rushed from one task to another as managers followed behind him, taking notes. Everything had to meet Daniel's impossible standards. While walking through one of the buildings, an elderly janitor slowly approached him. The man's hair had turned completely gray. His hands shook slightly as he removed his cap. "Mr. Daniel, may I have a moment?" Daniel barely looked at him. "What is it?" The old man swallowed nervously. "My doctor says I need heart surgery. I was hoping I could take medical leave for a few weeks. I've worked here for 32 years. As soon as I recover, I'll come right back." Daniel checked his watch. "So, you want me to keep paying someone who isn't working?" The old man's voice trembled. "I've given my whole life to this company." Daniel shrugged. "And now your time is over." The old man's face fell. "I have grandchildren depending on me." Daniel turned toward the human resources director. "Prepare his termination papers." For a moment, nobody moved. Even the HR director looked shocked. Daniel frowned. "Did you not hear me?" The paperwork was prepared that same afternoon. The old janitor quietly packed the few belongings from his locker. Some employees cried as they hugged him goodbye. Daniel never noticed. To him, loyalty had no value. Only profit mattered. The following weekend, Daniel drove through downtown after attending another luxury event. Traffic slowed near an intersection. Outside his window stood an elderly homeless veteran. His military jacket was faded. His shoes were worn through. In one hand, he held a cardboard sign. The words read, "Veteran, hungry, anything helps, God bless." The old man walked carefully between the stopped cars. When he reached Daniel's sports car, he smiled kindly. "Good evening, sir. Could you spare a few dollars for something to eat?" Daniel stared straight ahead. The traffic light remained red. The veteran spoke again. "I haven't eaten since yesterday." Daniel finally rolled down his window. For one brief second, the veteran's face lit up with hope. Instead, Daniel reached into his pocket, pulled out a few coins, looked at them, then placed them back into his pocket. "If you worked harder," he said coldly, "you wouldn't be standing on the street begging." The veteran's smile disappeared. Without another word, Daniel rolled up the window. The light turned green. His sports car sped away. Standing across the street, unnoticed by Daniel, was his father. He had witnessed everything. That evening, Daniel arrived at his father's mansion, expecting another ordinary dinner. Instead, the atmosphere felt unusually quiet. The dining table was set for only the two of them. Neither spoke while the meal was served. Finally, Daniel's father placed his fork on the table. "Son," he said softly, "do you know why people respected me all these years?" Daniel smiled. "Because you became rich." His father slowly shook his head. "No. They respected me because I respected them first." Daniel leaned back in his chair. "Respect doesn't build skyscrapers." His father's eyes remained fixed on him. "It builds people." Daniel laughed quietly. "People only care about money." His father sighed deeply. "No, Daniel. That's what you care about." The room fell silent. After a long pause, his father continued. "When I started this company, I cleaned construction sites with my own hands. I knew every employee by name. I attended their weddings. I helped pay for their children's education. When someone became sick, we stood beside them." Daniel folded his arms. "And that's exactly why you stayed old-fashioned." His father looked heartbroken. "We became successful because we treated people like family." Daniel stood from his chair. "Business isn't family anymore. It's survival." His father slowly rose to his feet. "You think money makes you untouchable." Daniel smirked. "Doesn't it?" His father's voice became almost a whisper. "One day, you'll discover that money can buy almost everything." He paused. "Except peace." Daniel walked toward the door. Before leaving, his father spoke one final sentence. "The people you're pushing away today may be the only ones willing to help you tomorrow." Daniel didn't respond. He simply walked away. Neither man realized those would become the last words Daniel would ever hear from his father. Later that night, as Daniel admired the city lights from his penthouse balcony, his phone suddenly rang. The caller ID flashed one terrifying word: "Dad." Daniel smiled as he answered. But instead of his father's voice, a stranger spoke. "Mr. Daniel, this is Mercy General Hospital." His smile disappeared. "I'm sorry to inform you." The voice hesitated. "Your father has suffered a massive heart attack." Daniel's heart stopped. The phone nearly slipped from his hand. Without another thought, he ran for the elevator. He had no idea his entire life was about to change forever.
Comment to be continued part 3, share, like, subscribe.